since it's easier to just stream it, because that'll automatically record it to my YouTube. Alright. And then just damp that up. Hopefully as many as possible. Ideally. We'll give it a couple more minutes, see if anyone else wants to squeak in before we get on the road. Because I know there were a couple others that were interested that just aren't here at the moment. So, we shall see. Looking at what to get for dinner, and I've never been more disappointed in my life because there is a new place called Dumpling Dojo, and you would think, based on the name, that they would serve dumplings. There don't actually appear to be dumplings on the menu. My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined. Who knows? Maybe they ran out of dumplings. I don't freaking know. You know, maybe. I mean, I went through the entire menu. Also, Claw, why are you in the stream and not just in the frickin' stage? I swear to God. Repeat ping Claw repeatedly for me. Wait, is he? Oh, he is now. You like? Yeah, no, that's for sure. That the truer words were never spoken. That's fair. That's fair. Everybody's gotta make Merrick's life as hard as possible. It's our mission. Alright, well, I'm feeling picky today, so food will have to wait until after class. I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick, and then we're gonna get the show on the road. Alright, let the games begin. Oh, we have Starlet too. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. Alright, let's get started. So, welcome to my. Hold on, let me sneeze. Welcome to my class on Eden Editor for people who are at least considering joining S4 and being map makers, comp makers, or what have you. We're going to be kind of going through my workflow for how to do a map for the 41st. I'll also be covering how to make comps, how to edit them, things like that. So you kind of get a pretty basic overview. And then for the people who, want to actually join us for, you'll get access to the vault with all of the comps and everything, so that you can start working on your own maps. But let's actually look at the invasion of Belarus map, because why not? And I'm actually going to hand out this PBO for all of you so that you can follow along. Now, I'm not sure. Can you actually see like my folders or just Arma? I think you might only be able to just Arma. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Change to entire screen. Come on, Discord. Come on. I think it's just being slow because it's waiting for Arma to load the map. Give it a second. Alright, there's that. And now it should hopefully let me change. There. Now, you should be able to see my folders. Yep, you can. Awesome. So, your map files live inside your documents folder. So this is like your account, documents, and then Arma 3 other profiles. You'll notice there's Arma 3, Arma 3 projects, Arma 3 other profiles. Then this is the one I use for all my mission making. And unsurprisingly, they're under MP missions. If you don't have it, you will need PBO Manager. I'll post a link. Here's a good one. I mean, they all work, but that's the one I use. I know Ruby has her super fancy one, but that's the easiest way to pack and unpack a PBO. It works literally just like fucking zipping a folder. So, like, here are the actual mission folders, and then you just right click, more options. Wait, there it goes. And then PBO Manager, pack is PBO. You don't need the fancy one. Inside the mission folder, you're going to see a few other fun little files. These are all essentially things that tell the server to do different things on setup. So, for instance, you have the init.sqf. This little block right here prevents the infinite loading screen bug that Arma's never fixed. This is what locks the view distance to 6,000. Yeah, we can. And I'll show you how to do that right now. This block, it controls CH view distance, setting the maximum view distances Um, can't hear anything? That might be on your. Yeah, might have to try the stream. Yeah. This is how you set up what props can be used for engineers and how much they cost. Obviously now we have Merrick bucks, so I'm just going to set the budget to 0 to make Claw's life miserable. And then this is a setting, this is what, or at least part of what makes the AI stupid. Because in base Arma, um, the AI will essentially steal your processing power. AIs that are close to you will actually use your CPU to help with their calculations. Now, our droids don't have to be that intelligent, so for us, they added a new option called AI Think Only Local, which means they'll only do their calculations either on the headless client that they're on or on the server itself. Init Player Local. This runs on people's computers as they connect. No, we can't make them think from the Lucre Hall. I mean, you probably could, but too much work. This just runs on your computer as you connect to as a backup to keep the AI from trying to steal your CPU. Crucially, Init Player Local is also where we do things like filters. So, like the red filter from Xenoc goes in Init Player Local. Init Server. This is the code that runs on the server. Again, this is just a fallback, and it also runs a check that goes into the server log that I can look at and make sure it's actually working. And then description ext, another backup. Enable debug console just puts the debug console for when you are on. Basically, this whole thing right here just makes it so that when you're logged in as an admin into the server, you can use the debug console, which we rarely have to, but things like during Kashyyyk, when all the Zeus modules broke in the finale, and we still needed to play music, I was playing music from the debug console, calling functions there, so it's very nice to have. But the main attraction is this mission.sqm right here. This is the actual meat and potatoes of the mission, where all the data is stored. You can see this one's about 4 megabytes. That's the high side of good. Normally, we want missions ideally to be in the 2 to 3 range. Oh, lost somebody. Normally, we want missions to be in the 2 to 3 range. Oh, bye, Dylan. Um, but really, 4, even sometimes 5 is okay, depending on the map itself. On a highly optimized map, especially where players are going to be spread out, you can get away with 5. 6 is really the absolute red line. Really try to stay away from 6. 2 to 3, ideal. But we'll be going into the challenges with all that. Yeah, don't be Ruby. um, but I'm going to give you all so that you can follow along with me. Ta-da! So if you have PBO Manager, or I'll just make a zip if you don't. Let's see. Is it really not broadcasting my voice? It's showing I'm transmitting on Discord. Huh. All right, well, we'll keep going. So, let's look at the map. So, this is what. Oh, this is actually the one I made that didn't work. That I could never figure out why this one didn't work. But we'll look at it first, and then we'll go to the one we actually end up using. So, first things first. That is so weird. I have no idea why. And I mean, it's fine. Like, if you have to listen to the stream, you have to listen to the stream. It's not a big deal. I mean, you're getting the same content either way. Anyways, first and most important thing about a mission is the acclimator. These two on the sides are just props. The acclimator is where all our spawns are, all that fun stuff. Before you do anything else loading into a mission, though, first thing you always, always, always do, because you will forget it otherwise and it's going to make your life miserable. These two things right here, vertical mode and surface snapping. Just click, click. This will make it so that when you place down a comp, it's not going to be all jumbled. And I'll give you an example. So we'll do, like, here's a small comp. This one's not the best example. Where's like a Citadel or something. So you can see, and to turn off all the icons and just look at it for a moment, you can hit backspace. You can see this is not exactly spawning correctly. Hit backspace to turn on the icons again. I'm just going to Control Z to take that away. Now, we're going to turn on this and this, these two right here. Boom. Now, you can see it's floating, but that's not a big deal. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll come back for it. Because I want to talk about the acclimator. More specifically, the stuff in the acclimator that you don't normally see. Hidden in the front of the acclimator is going to be what I like to call the spawn box. This is also the rat room. Thank you, Mono. Or at least it's supposed to be. I don't know why there's no rats. Unfortunate. But this, the spawn box. Yeah, the rats escaped. This right here, the spawn box. This is where the magic happens. Armor requires you to have a little dude for each spot that you want as a slot to load in. So there's quite a lot of them for the entire battalion. So you can see, like, here's Finoc, there's Hydra, Wampa. Most units, you would have this, like, organized into neat lines and everything so that it'd be easy to make edits. We're not most units. There's Uvok. See, they're kind of grouped together. Garzer, Rancor, Acolyte Command. Yes, it's so horrific. That's why I never bother. Crucially, you also have the three vehicles, the Taru pods, which are linked to these respawn position icons. For respawns for Blue 4, You rename them Respawn, West, and then a number. So you have Respawn, West 1, 2, and 3. West is obviously blue 4 in armor terms. East is op 4, etc., etc. Oh god, Sigs is in here. Cringe. Can't let Rangers learn all our secrets. But yeah, so essentially this just holds all the people. And then they spawn in these because these are linked. And what you do is you right click, connect, sync to, in this case. When you right click them, there's sync to, set trigger owner. Don't really worry about set trigger owner. It's not really important. These light blue lines are groups. So these are group lines. You can see this is Hydra squad leader. And then he's linked by the blue lines to all the Hydra squad members. No, you don't, Starlet. You're cool. It's true, Ruby. Anyways, so yeah, that's the spawn box. And then you have... Where are they hidden on this acclimator? Here they are. So over here is what I like to call the nerve center with all these little icons. These are all the various Zeus modules for all the various Zeus slots. So you have, for instance, Zeus module 9. This 42 is actually really important because you can see hashtag admin logged is very important. This means that if you do /login and then the password, you get Zeus as well as admin. Very important. Now, one of these, I'm not going to tell you which, also contains a hidden Steam code. So that if you ever steal this composition and put it on your server, not only will your server always let me on because of my Steam ID, but it will immediately give you admin and then, rather give me admin and start posting random bullshit. It's really funny. Actually happened to someone once. Won't name and shame them, but it was pretty funny when they invited me over to their unit, and I load in, and oh, what's this? I have admin. Womp womp. Anyways, these are all the little setup icons, like Curator. This is basically like just back end stuff. Really, you don't have to worry about it. It's all kind of done for you. You'll just put down the acclimator comp, and you don't have to worry about it. And then these three little guys are the three headless clients. These are their slots: HC1, HC2, HC3. So if you don't have these for whatever reason, and this is actually why the FunOp suffered so much, because normally the headless client slots are in the Citadel, so when I reviewed Phoenix's map, I didn't think to look for them, because they're always there for our stuff. So I didn't realize until it was too late that there were no headless client slots. And then here's the God's Eye view of the interior that Mono made. I do love the work he did on this. The hangar, everything. So once you have access to the S4 Vault, you'll also get all our scripts and everything. This is kind of the most basic one, the teleport script. It's just this add action, which adds something to the scroll wheel. What it's going to say for the player, like go through the door. And this says player, set position. And then it's telling Arma to get the position of a item named Main Hall, which in this case we use invisible helipads that base game Arma uses to like create simulated landing pads that AI helicopters will home in on. And you can see it right here. It's an invisible helipad named Main Hall. Conversely, this door has go to the hangar with Main Hangar. And if we go out here, there's Main Hangar. That's how you do teleports. Teleports are probably one of the most important things to check when you're finalizing a map because you will have a misspelling in there somewhere. It will happen. You will have to go catch it. 100%. Here's the fancy reinsert terminals. Here is, this one is the one that makes the LATC teleport over here from here, which is really fun. These blue boxes are triggers, which we'll take a look at now. So these are the ones that make it so that if Finoc, say, lands the LAT on the landing pad, it automatically repairs and rearms them. So, let's look at this. You have the position and size of the trigger. You have the shape, so if I set it to ellipse, obviously it's going to look like that. Or square, look like that. Then you have different types. The types you can obviously just ignore. In this case, we have activation by Blue4, which means, basically a clone player. Or really, it could be activated by an AI, too. Activation type present. This means that there is some Blue4 player or AI inside the trigger. This makes it repeatable. Condition, you're always going to use either this, which basically just tells it to use this stuff up here, or in some cases you might use true, which just tells it to always do what's in here. And this just tells, okay, for whatever's inside this field, as long as it's Blue4, set damage, and yes, damage is misspelled. That is how you spell damage in Arma. We love damage, exactly. Yeah, that's a like 20 plus year old bug because the developers are Czech and it's too much work for them to change at this point. So, yes, Arma uses damage with 2 M's. So you're setting yeah. Oh, that's my favorite meme, Ruby. Welcome to Arma 3, where you are a vehicle. Yes, you are technically a vehicle. Your uniform is the skin of someone else. Also true. Your helmet is a weapon. Yes. Your vest is also a weapon. Yes. Your backpack is a vehicle. Yes. Your hands are attached to your weapon and not the weapon to your hands. Also correct. Your IR pointer is backwards. That's another fun old bug. You take damage. Oh, yeah. Have you chained any chains? You can do that. What you do is you can set it to activation, and then you could have it activated by pretty much anything else. Did they? Huh. I didn't know they fixed it. But yes, to answer your question, Claw, you can chain scripts and triggers. You really shouldn't. It's easier to just have it all under one trigger, but you totally can. The way things like the spawn terminals work. So you have here where it's adding an action, spawn, lat1. Then it's saying pad 1 is going to be, essentially pad 1 for the code is where spawn pad 2 is, which spawn pad 2 is this prop, this invisible prop right here. No, I don't have any chained ones currently. And then it's going to create a vehicle, a lat mark 1, and put it right here where this is. Entirely, I mean, You mean like they didn't place enemies in Zeus? I mean, sure you could. That's a much older way of doing things though. Like that's definitely somebody who's used to making like missions in Arma 2 and early Arma 3. Um, and just never kind of changed their ways, which based, don't get me wrong, you just don't have to suffer like that anymore. And yeah, I guess yeah, you could do that too, Ruby. See, back then it was all the same, but that's cringe nowadays. Then you have cool stuff like the crate generators, which work pretty much exactly the same as the lat spawners. It's all just create X at position Y. So that's the acclimator. Let's go and look at some of the stuff I built that never got used. So you can see for this one, I just use a lot of like base game comps. And then I had hidden teleports to labs. Where again, it was just a bunker hidden in a building. You come in, you touch the info stand, and there's a teleport. Don't worry, once I figure out what's wrong with this, we'll probably end up running it eventually. It probably is like a fun op or something. And then you can see you can do all sorts of fun stuff. Like, see, you have this crane that's like stuck out of the side. And it looks kind of funky. But then you look at it inside, and you're like, oh, oh, there's a crane hanging down the steering wheel with a crate on it. Why don't you have a Zeus corner, Ruby? And then, as you can see, people would have had to pile in the truck and drive the truck down the tunnel, which would be filled with. See, shit like this happens all the time. I didn't even notice that there was a thing missing. What the? Yeah, no, this would have been a lot of fun for Acklay, because let's be honest, it would have been Acklay to find it. Probably would have just like put up some construction barriers in Zeus or something. If you ever run into a situation like this, is actually a good example, and why you should always double check your shit and don't be like me. But let's take this platform. I'm going to hit 2 to bring up the slider thingy. Now, smart people like Ruby or Zavala or Burns use the snapping mod that lets you just kind of snap props together. I'm old school, so I just eyeball it, but your mileage may vary. Definitely the oh, you don't? I thought you were better than me, Ruby. In this case, you can see it's currently based on global, not on prop. So if I were to start moving this, it's going to move it crooked, which we don't want. So I'm going to click this button right here. And now, the little box, it's based on the props vectors. And I can very simply do Control C and then Control Shift V for what's called a deep paste. That's going to paste the prop exactly where the one you copied from is. Then I just do this, and I'm still off a little. So I'm just going to Control C, Control Shift V, and voila. Problem solved. No, this does not work in Zeus. Correct. But you can see they would have gotten to the end of the tunnel. Door opens up. And they come in here, fight their way through. These little things on the ground are called garrison points. This is basically what Arma is looking for when you use the garrison module in Zeus, and they are absolutely critical to have in your comps. So if you're going to build comps for S4, Six just sends me catching strays for existing. So if you're going to build comps for S4, this is kind of what you want to have. It is mandatory to place these. In this case, I've just kind of put them all around, but you can also kind of place them tactically, place them on like tops of walls. Yes, much easier to remove them than add them. Excuse me. And you go into the hallways. You can see like I placed some garrison points behind the desks and such. While we're here, a quick note on doors, because I didn't do this right. So you see how some of the props have like this little red icon on next to their thing, and some don't? That is their simulation status. So this is basically telling Arma, does this need to move or animate in any way? So for instance, doors, it's very important that they have some sort of simulation. What you should do for doors is check both simulation and dynamic simulation. This means that Arma will only do the calculations to simulate them when players are close. And then you see the little blue icon. So this is a good example of a comp that's not properly optimized because I didn't go through for the doors. But what you can do is, so for instance, I'm going to click on. So the threshold for dynamic simulation, I'm glad you're asked. We will cover that. That's actually in the mission settings. You can change it. Anyways, so I click on this tech corridor door. Then I can click here, scroll up, shift click. Now I have all of the tech corridor doors in this comp selected. Go to attributes here. Then I'm going to check this box, which makes it apply to all entities. And check this box. And now they're all dynamic simulations. So you can see all the little blue dots. Other props, like these lockers, have what's called simple object status. You always want to simple any objects you can, as it makes it easier on Arma. Critically, simple objects cannot be edited in Zeus. The game treats them just like it would treat, that tree down there. So, do be mindful what you are setting to simple, because there will be no way for the Zeuses to touch it at all. Yeah, it literally turns into a rock. Not all props have it. You can see these tech corridors. It'll only show an option for simple objects if turning it into a simple object would improve Arma's calculations. So for instance, these tech corridors from JM's, I forget if this is JM's Sci-Fi Pack or JM's LTE, or JM's Buildings, but it's one of them. His stuff is usually pretty optimized, so you can see there's no option to turn it into a simple object. It really can, yeah, sure, simple. Something like this, modular barracks quarters. This is an error I see people make a lot. Here's something that, on first glance, looks like it's a good candidate for simple objecting. Where'd it go? Here it is. It's got multiple doors and everything, but that's exactly the problem. If you simple object this, the doors aren't going to work, and there's no way for the Zeuses to make the doors work. So, if you need players to go through there, you can accidentally make things really bad. Now, to address your question, Claw, let's look at the mission settings. So, you're going to go, first we'll go to Attributes General. And this is just the very basic most settings. The title of the map, author, it should default populate your Steam name, you can put whatever. Picture overview, text overview. I don't really use them. You don't have to. Obviously, if you want to have DLCs or not, I just didn't check it. No point. Loading screens. Obviously, you can do all sorts of crazy shit there. You won't most times. Independence Allegiance. This basically sets who Green Force starts off as fighting. You can either have, like, default is friendly to Blue 4, hostile to Op 4. But, like, if we're using Green 4 for the Mandalorians, I'll just swap them so that the Mandalorians are gonna, fight the clones. Another big thing is binarizing the scenario file. In this case, I'm going to turn this off. Normally, you want to leave it on because it means it'll load a lot faster. But in this case, I'm going to turn it off because I'm going to go in later and try and figure out what the fuck is keeping the, is keeping this map from actually working. But that's a little advanced for this class. Then we're going to look at multiplayer. You're going to want to set game type to Zeus. Max players, I always just set it to 200. Summary, just put the same name of the mission. Enable AI, critically always turn this off. It will start as on, always turn it off. This means the slots won't be pre-populated with AI, which lags the shit out of the mission. Respawn starts as disabled. You're going to want to set it to respawn on custom position. This basically tells Arma that you want people to respawn, where we put those sauropods. Then, you just want to make sure that these two are checked. Select respawn location, otherwise it'll just randomize where they go. And show respawn counter, so they know how long they have left until they respawn. I always set the delay to 10 seconds. This gives people a moment to think about what they did, but also, in the event of a mass cas, kind of spreads things out a little bit between death and respawn, which helps the server. Show scoreboard. This is just like, do you see the scoreboard when you're dead? Allow manual respawn. This lets people, kill themselves if they need to respawn to fix something. And then we don't use tickets or anything. Revive is always disabled. And then you'll see these are the dynamic AI skill settings. Again, we don't really use these because our droids are dumb as shit. Okay? Then performance. This is what you were asking about, Claw. Here's dynamic simulation. These are the activation distances. Characters, props, manned vehicles. I usually just leave it at the default, but feel free to play around with it. And then obviously if a character is moving, you can have it double the range just to help kind of preload for when they're getting close. Garbage collection is important though. This is basically the cleanup script. Obviously Zeuses are going to use delete all objects when the server needs it, but you can set this up to be kind of like a base garbage collection. You just set it to all scenario objects, minimum distance, how many corpses can be on the field at once, what the minimum delay is before it's going to delete it, and maximum delay. Same for vehicles. So, let's look at actually placing some stuff. So in this case, I want to take, this is the taller version of the Citadel with the taller entrance ramp. So we're going to plop it down. And as you can see, there's a lot going on, which is why it's usually good to just hit backspace. And now you can see the comp pretty easily. Hit 2 if you don't see the lines. And now I can drag it just like this, because I want to try and line it up with the road a little bit. So I've got it here. I'm going to hit 3, which brings up my rotation options. 2. Now hold Alt and drag down. This will change up the heights. As you can try to sink it in so that the ramp works. It is close to the road without being too close. Looks pretty good to me. Turn this back on. These are hide terrain objects modules. I'll just copy one over here. As you can see, they hide trees and rocks and shit. You will find them under Systems, Hide Terrain Objects right here. And then if you hit 5, it pops up these little lines where you can change the size pretty easily. If you double click them, you can set it to like what you want them to hide. Like say I want it to only hide trees but not buildings. I can then drag this over here and you can see it's hiding the trees but not the buildings. And then other is usually things like fences, and in this case like the wood piles. Ta-da! Very easy, very, very useful. But, oh no! There's a gap under my Citadel. So, what do you do in a situation like this? Yes, you can use a rock. In fact, that is the classic solution. So, it should be under cliff, I think it is. No, that's the 3S1s. Is it rock wall? No. It's, we're going to go through here. And you have to, yeah, here it is. Long rock. Limestone. So I could very easily put a rock like that. You'll see this a lot in older compositions, as for a long time this was the best way to do it. But it doesn't always make sense for the spot. So, what else can I do? Well, another thing that's really easy is just click the prop above, do Control-C, Control-Shift-V to duplicate it in the exact same spot, and then drag it down. It's not perfect because there's this little gap here, and there's a little bit of Z fighting, as you can see. But most players would never notice. And then if you want, what you do is the position right here, we're just going to change it by we'll change it by like a very small amount. And you can see now it's no longer Z fighting. Or there's not that kind of pop in and out. This is pretty good. Most players would never notice this or give it any sort of second thought. It'll block droids. Nope, it's just somebody being lazy. Or you can use Terrain Deformer. This is the ideal way to handle it. So I'm going to hit Shift-Y, and that pops up the Deformer menu up here. Important. Very, very, very important. First thing you do, every time you go into Deformer, even if you're just loading a save, and always double check this because you can very easily fuck up your shit. Adaptive raise and lower, off. Auto level objects, off. Now, if I do Control 1, you can see, oh look, ta-da! There. Now, it looks like it's built into the actual terrain. If I didn't do, so let me put this back. If I didn't do this, you can see the problem. And if you try and put it back, in this case, I got it to go back pretty much right, but you can, yeah. Yeah. There's no going back, and you're going to have to reload a save. Nope, even Control Z isn't totally going to save you there. See? It's not going to save you. So, always make sure these two are off. But you can do a lot of fun things with Deformer. So, for instance, see that yellow circle? That yellow circle is the part that it's really moving. So if I wanted, say, some interesting alien kind of terrain, I can turn up the hardness and create like pillars of earth like that. If I wanted to make like a very gentle slope, what I could do is make the size large, the hardness small. And see, I can create like a much more gentle, much more natural kind of hill. Strength is just how fast it moves. Oh, autosave. That's not good. Oh well. Good thing I have a backup this map. Yep, it is literally World Painter. Fun thing, you can also limit height. So if I were to say click this and then click here, there we go. It's now going to limit that height. So if I were to continue bringing the terrain down, it's going to lock it there. And bringing the terrain up, it's also going to lock it there. And then I'm just going to turn up my hardness a little bit. And voila, you have a crater. One that will, there's a little bit of jagged edges here, but you get the idea. And players will actually be able to, go into it without any issues. If you go too deep, Death of Acolyte Platoon, yeah, exactly. If you go too deep, they may start to have issues. But in most cases, Deformer's safe to use pretty much everywhere. You can see in this case I've used AI building positions, which are just a different version of garrison points. And you can see how fucked up this all is now. Yeah. So that is the basics of that. So let's delete this for now. So let's take a higher level view of what we're trying to do. Well, the more complex a comp is, the more easy it is to have it fucked up in some way, whether you're using Deformer or not. So let's talk about what I like to call mission theory. So the premise for this map was to have them start here, and then they are searching for the secret Belarusian labs with the stargates that the CIS are using to invade Earth. So essentially, they were going to have to go around to these towns, which would have civilians in them, Belarusian soldiers, and then I used a bunch of base game comps for this one because obviously we're fighting in Belarus. With the idea that eventually they would stumble upon, I think it's in here, yeah. So they come in here and be like, oh, what's this? It's a secret entrance. Then they'd be teleported here, go through all of this, and then into here, and oh, look, it's a Stargate. Yeah, this is the one I intended to use last weekend, but it didn't quite work. But the idea is, the platoon leader is probably going to either want to split the squads uh to three, so have the three independent elements running around, or do two and two, where they have, for instance, say Sarlacc and Nexu run together and Wampa and Crate go together. So usually you're going to have either 2 to 3 lanes of people moving around the map. And you don't know ahead of time how they're going to play it. So it's your job to kind of have a natural flow. So for instance, I have one of the entrances here in Valkesh, one of them here in Gornaluka, and one of them here in Demiovo. So essentially, I know that those are the furthest away, and I know that they're probably going to start working their way outwards from the Venator. So I'm trying to make sure that they have enough content in all these other towns that they're going to be able to actually spend 2 hours on this map. And obviously the Zeuses will have them like get ambushed on the way to other cities and stuff and do other things to slow them down. It's not just going to be a straight shot. Let's look at a different map. We'll look at the one we actually used. So in this case, you have the Venator or the Acclimator landed. Which important note: the base Acclimator ramp like this does not have a hitbox. So you will have what I had once, where everybody runs off and they immediately fall through and onto the ground and die. It's very embarrassing, which is why I always fill the ramp with base plates. And you can see these are just basic 50 by 50 base plates. Base plates are your best friends. You could stick them in anything to just make it so that they're not walk or shoot through. In this case, you can see you actually have markers for some of the different major objectives. You don't always have to do that, but you can. Um, this is, if you remember seeing like the objectives, where it would show if it's CIS or Republic controlled. That's these sector modules. You name it. And then have default owners who can own it. And then sync a BLU4 and an OP4 module to it so that Arma knows those are the two options. Yes, base plates. Oh, yeah. Pressing enter by accident is a constant. You will do that all the time. Now, this was actually an older map we used as a backup. using older maps is dangerous because the mod list may have changed, and you might have something that, you know, went awry. In this case, because 3AS updated their catwalks, as you remember, you can't get up in the towers. So it's important to, again, not do what I did, and when using an older map, just run through and check everything, because it would have been very easy for me to have just shifted these around, hold Alt, and you can drag up and down, and then I'll just put it like that. Now the stairs work, and it would have been easy to just kind of come in here and do that for all of them. So, another important thing to check, especially when using older comps. That's great, Ruby. And there were actually, so in the tower here, Zavala actually has it so it says deactivate the ray shields and then delete vehicle. So in this case, it's deleting the shield prop, which is in here somewhere. Yeah. So it's all kind of synced together. You go in the towers to turn off the shields, yada, yada, yada. But that's a good example of building mission flow. So, for instance, here, the main objective is the planetary cannon, but you have to go for the targeting arrays first. And to open the shield on the targeting array, you have to fight up to the top of these towers. There's one tower for each of the targeting arrays. Those take down the shields. And then from there, you can take down the shields on the planetary cannon. And then everybody finally storms it. That is a really good example of building in a complex mission design, because the clones are going to have to figure that out. They can't just bum rush the planetary cannon. They're going to actually have to observe, okay, we got to figure out how to turn off those shields. Well, there's these big radar towers, and based on the mission, we may provide that information that they have to find the radar towers and disable the shields there. Or that may be something that the Rangers have to discover. And if the Rangers don't figure it out, then, well, too bad. Just have to figure it out in mission. Even a single objective like this, excuse me, you want to kind of think about where you're placing this. So, you can see I've put it down where there's this whole industrial park that the Zeuses can also fill with enemies for crossfire. But you've got this nice wooded area. So, they set down like somewhere over here in the clearing. You fill the forest with droids, if you're Zeusing. See, you would, but most people really hate that. Most people just want to follow a line and shoot droids. And, unfortunately, we have to cater to the masses. Believe me, those are definitely my favorite kinds of ops. But yeah, that's more of what Rangers does at the moment. And sometimes we're allowed to throw missions like that at the platoons. But you can see, oh, I've got a breach in the wall here. Or really, what I should have done is not. This is a code to turn a wall into a simple object. I don't know why it's on this one. It's probably just old, because these walls can be simple objected now. But we're going to go into object type here. Let me change this. And then we're going to change this one away from a simple object as well. Now, another example of mission design. I'm going to select these two walls. I'm going to attributes, object type, and we're going to go to walls jungle. And then wall mad jungle. Now, you have this mossy wall, and we're just going to make sure that it has simulation on and also enable damage. Come on. There. So they both got simulation on and damage enabled. This means so that when an EOD sees this, they know, come over here, plant a charge, blow up this wall so they can go in the back. It's a good way of signaling, yeah, neuron activation, exactly. It's a good way of signaling to them, hey, blow this one up. This way, all the other walls can remain simple objects, while still giving the engineers a place to breach. It also allows you to design the interior such that the breach point isn't going to be an immediate mass cas. So for instance, you can see, like, I've placed this stack of boxes here, and there's not really any garrison points in the immediate area other than on top of the walls, so that they'll have cover after the breach coming in and be able to sweep through. If we were to just let them breach anywhere, they might like end up breaching here and then walk in, and then, oh no, there's all these droids shooting down on them, and oh, they're dead. You want to make it a challenge, but also kind of prepare them. Which I'll actually put down. Basically, anytime they're going through a teleport, you also really need to make sure that there's cover for them on the other side of it. A good example is here, I'll throw down. So to find your compositions, you go to right here, F2, custom, and then I'm going to drop a Pravi. This is the Gentac version of the Providence. Flip it up into the sky. Yeah, you need something after the teleport. So, for instance, the bridge up here, you know, where the Droideka is waiting for you in the Gentac map, there's a door here. So that when you come in, you can stack up without just immediately, you know, droids. Yeah, kick in the face, exactly. It's also why, like here in the reactor room, you're up here, and usually the droids can't just immediately gun you down. Usually. I should probably put some more protection in there, but, you know, fuck the CRs. Exactly. Having people spawn into a deca leads to angry up feedback comments. I had commando droids. Good. But yeah, so this map was originally meant to be a two-parter, where you had... Now, so this is kind of the next thing I want to discuss, is what I call a master map versus an op map. So originally, this whole thing, let me see if I have it. I have the old master map. Let's see. RS3. Basically, you have the master, which can be well over the normal prop and size limits, that then gets cut up to be parceled out into different maps. No, this isn't the old master. I'll pull up a example. Here's a good one. So we'll use South End Prime. So in this case, you have a map that was built to be shared by two different platoons doing different objectives. There we go. So as you can see, this map is pretty dense. There's a lot here. This is more than a single platoon can do in 2 hours, and more props than you could really load in on the server. This actually ended up being used by 3 platoons, where actually this might have even been all 4. Yeah, actually no, this one was actually broken down into 4 platoon maps, where Banshee had this whole peninsula with the giant air base, this industrial sector, and the base is here, and over to this fortress here. Acklay had the coasts up here and all this, and up into here. Chimera got dropped into the city and had to do urban combat. And you can see where I've taken the base map city and expanded it with one of our comps, adding in additional fighting locations, interior here. Going too long, gotta redo the course. Yeah. And then Drexel got to go up in here, free the slaves up in the marshes and all that. And there was a little bit of overlap between the zones. You don't always have to have things be completely unique, because the goal is to provide as much uniqueness as possible while still giving them, the 2 hours of content. So, for instance, if I go to, let's see, South and Prime, week 1, Drexel. Yeah. So you can see where I left in like some of the landing and stuff for them just in case. But I knew, because after the recon was done by, in this case, R for what would now be Rangers, I knew how Cardinal and Annex were going to divide the map up and send them to, the different platoons. So I knew Drexel was going to end up focused on this region. So everything else down here and over here is all deleted, which saves a ton of props, means the Drexel op is going to be run so much smoother. But at the same time, you know, this is just a variation of, the master map file. So when you're building a map, you're building the entire map. You're not just building it out for one platoon, because you might have two or three, or in some cases even four platoons sharing, and we want to minimize the amount of similarity between operations. Now, we can't always do that. Sometimes we just have, one smaller map for the weekend, and kind of everybody's got to make do. Um, it's not always the case. It really just depends on what our capacity is, and that's why we really need, um, you know, people like you guys to help making more maps so that the platoons can have more unique operations. But yeah, so see, basically, I built out this entire map and then, chopped it up into pieces for the different platoons. Because this whole thing together is like 10 megabytes, which the server would just die trying to load it. But it can then be cut down for the different platoons. Or really, I should say, you can run it with ARF, or like an ARF-sized group of people, because they're not going to be heavily fighting. There's not going to be 800 to 1,000 AI on the field. There's not going to be 60 plus players. You can get away with it. Not so much, you know. Not so much when the platoons are running the ops. So that's kind of all I have for like my 101 series class. I will be doing more of these and going into some more advanced stuff later on. But do you guys have any questions for me? Awesome. And then who did we lose over the course of this? I think Texas. And I know we had somebody else. Oh, Kate. They might be watching the stream. Yeah, one of the new CRs was. All right, so I think then that oh, sorry, I was looking at the ping. Um, yeah, that brings us down to who wants to join S4? Who wants to actually try their hand at this? Well, all right. Technically, yes. Yeah, definitely smoke. You know what, smoke? You're getting shanghaied into this. Congratulations. And Texas, yeah, I'm just gonna freaking start S4 attacking people. And if you want to escape, you can. Starlet, Kate, Cosmic. That's okay. Good to have you for at least. So, for those of you who are going S4, not only will you see the S4 Operations Development channel, where you can talk to everybody, but crucially, you will see S4 Vault. This has all of our comps, all of our scripts, so be sure to go through and grab everything. Yeah, just create a test map. Try throwing something together and send it to me, and I'll look it over. You've also got my example map to play around with. Feel free to mess with that however you want. You can also steal the acclimator off there so that you have that. If you want to use it to build your own missions. But other than that, that's all I really have for you guys for tonight. I do appreciate you coming. And, feel free to just shoot me questions whenever. Dash, if you scroll up. So, you know what? I'm going to give you guys. I'm going to give you guys this one too. Self Prime. This has an old acclimator, but it's a good example of what a master map looks like. And then there's the Invasion of Belarus, which has a current acclimator, but is much more simplistic. And then if you need it, here is PBO Manager. Dash, are you looking to join S4? Or are you just playing around? Okay, great. So I'm going to give you access to the S4 channels. You'll also see the S4 Vault, which has all our comps and scripts in it. Feel free to peruse and take whatever you like. Awesome. I'd say best thing for you guys to try is just try taking some elements from these two maps, play around with it, make your own or edit this one, and send it to me. You know, and think about the story that you're trying to tell with your map. Think about where you're going to put the acclimator. Think about the flow of the mission, where you think the clones are going to go, where you're placing objectives. Do they make sense? So, for instance, for like this airfield, you can see I've got defenses up all along the coast to guard it, and we had in-game placed patrols going between them. Yeah, so that is that, and like I said, play around with it, and let me know if you have any questions. Other than that, I'm going to go get some food because I'm starving and I haven't eaten today. So I will bid you all a very fond farewell and hope to hear from you guys soon. welcome to S4 for those of you that are joining.